Hello. I'm saying hello to no one. There's no one here yet. So I'm just going to wait for people. It's fall officially. I'm just talking because, eventually there will be people here or people who will watch this later and they don't want to sit and watch me on my phone. Oh, I have a human. I'm talking to another human, I think. I think there's another human. So hello. We are doing our first official fall painting, which if it were up to me, there would only be 2 seasons and it would be fall and then like some combination of spring and summer. That's it. Haley's here. Hi, Katharina. Oh, thanks. I'm sometimes feeling better. It's the whole thing. Who knows? But yeah, so we're gonna do lots of fall paintings, I hope, this season. For this one, I've chosen to do like a gray, like a faux weathered wood background, simply because I didn't tell you all to get brown. I mean, I've mentioned that you should get brown, but I feel bad, like just all of a sudden being like, yeah, we're gonna do a brown painting. If you have brown and you'd rather your wood be brown, that's fine. Also, like the stem of the pumpkin is going to be brown. We're going to make our own brown for that. So yeah, it's gray. So we're going to need to start off with white and black. And we're going to first mix ourselves a little like middle gray. I think just like a middle tone gray. Just to start out with. I went shopping today and bought new paints and brushes. Woo! That's fantastic. I have not done that. I need paint. I don't need paint. I have it. I just like every time I pick up a canister of paint, a tube of paint, and I'm like, oh, there's like nothing left in here. I should remember to get some more. And then I don't. So that's like that. But I have a whole bin of like I got like a whole bunch of those little guys, then in like 412 different colors. So I'll just go through those before I go buy myself more paint. All right. So I'm gonna make myself a middle gray here. And now we're not going to paint the whole background yet. What we're gonna do, you could do this with like a full amount of paint, or you can like water your paint down if you're afraid of like fully committing. But we're just gonna kind of like map out where our pumpkin is going to go so that we don't waste time and painting the background behind it, because it is a significant portion of our canvas. So I'm just gonna take this color and I'm gonna say, and you don't have to worry about the pumpkin shape right now, really. I'm just kind of mapping it out. So I'm going to say my pumpkin is going to go here. And yeah, there's a little bit down here that is going to probably poke out. So I'll be sure to kind of just add a little bit of my background paint to that corner just to cover all my bases. But yeah, so then I'm going to take my middle gray, which is actually going to end up being pretty close to this like primed gessoed canvas that I'm starting with. And I'm just going to paint the whole background. Now you don't have to like overly mix your black and your white because we're going to like purposely put streaks in there. So streaks are good. We like streaks. And I am choosing to paint with vertical brush strokes because I have decided that I want my like faux wood planks to be vertical. If it's something that you feel strongly about the other direction, you could do that as well. The other direction being horizontal. You can go as light or as dark as you want with this background. I chose to start with a middle because I'm going to add some blacks and some whites for texture and for that wood grain. So I just kind of want to start in the middle. I got a, if any of you follow me on Twitter, you guys know how much I hate my day job, my real job, my normal person job. But I was working since the beginning of the pandemic. Or like the work from home order or whatever, I've been working. I had this shelf that I had never installed. It was like a big shelf. And I bought like legs for it and just screwed legs onto it and like decided that that was my desk because I didn't really have a desk. I just had like a vanity. So it's been like bowing slowly but surely, and I needed a desk, and I haven't been feeling well. So I did not want to build a desk, and I also didn't want to try to figure out. I'm a big like Facebook Marketplace person, and buying used and thrifted stuff is my jam. But I didn't want to figure out how to fit that into a sedan and then also like pick it up when I wasn't feeling well. So I ordered also through Facebook Marketplace. This guy, like 2 towns over, was building desks. So I paid a lot of money. But I was like supporting a local artisan, so there's that. So I got a new desk. That was my story. I got a new desk, and they delivered it today, like right into my garage. So I didn't have to shop. I didn't have to like pick it up besides to bring it into my house. It's pretty fantastic. I'm happy with my decision. But I spent a lot of money on a desk for a job that I hate. But I do figure like even if I get a new job in the future, in the at least the near future, I'll probably still be trying to get one that allows me to work from home. So hopefully it's an investment piece and I'm not an idiot. Okay, so now while this background is still wet, we're going to want to put in some details. And I say that while it's still wet because we don't want these to be like harsh lines. We want them to show up, so we don't want the wet paint to completely absorb the details of our wood grain that we're going to put in there. But we do want it to kind of like soften it a little bit. You can do the main lines, like dividing your planks with a big flat brush if you want to turn it on its skinny side. I think I am going to do that. And then the other lines I'm going to use like a skinnier round brush. This actually is the first painting I've done in a long time that for you guys that I actually used 3 brushes. If you don't have 3 brushes, it's not a big deal, but I did use my background brush. I used my big round brush to kind of fill in and shade the pumpkin itself because those were chunkier lines. And then I used a smaller round brush for like the wood grain and the vines. And those vines are pretty chunky. You can even use like a really thin, delicate line and make some like legitimate vines, like stem shaped vines. Okay, so I'm not washing my brush off because again, my paint is still wet and I want it to kind of bleed together a little bit. But I just took some black paint on here, kind of just like smushed on one side, smushed on the other to get a nice skinny line. I don't know if you can see that. And I'm just going to decide like where my planks are. You can kind of like, you get to decide if you want lots of skinny planks, if you just want like 3 wide planks, which I think is what I'm going to go for. I'm going to do like 3 or 4 wider planks. So let's see what I can fit. And I'm not measuring this out, guys. Like it's not that serious. So just like pick one and then be like, okay, cool. So this is about the same. I'm going to put one here. And now if you go a little bit into your pumpkin space, like that's fine. I just didn't want to waste all that paint and time and all of that. And then plus if you have to wait for it to dry, not my jam today. Not today. So that one got a little chunky, but it's okay. We'll fade it out. Yeah, I'm good with that. I mean, this one's a little on the wider side, but it happens. All right, so now I'm going to get my skinnier round brush. So he's kind of skinny. He's my Spencer. And what we can do first is it's clean and dry, and I'm gonna grab some black paint. And you can just start out by pressing really lightly and just kind of like giving some texture, like really faint, and you can carry it all throughout. Or if you want to choose in like maybe one that you'll really see, like I like to put it up here because I know my pumpkin and my vines are not going to really be in the way. You can do a little like knot in your wood. There's a couple different ways. I'll show you 2 different things you could do. So really simple knot in your wood that you could do is to just kind of swirl. And I would like make it a little bit more of an oval than a circle. And you could just swirl. And then as you come out of your swirl, kind of pull it down like this, because you can then curve the rest of your, that was loud. A little bit closer. You can kind of pull the rest of your grain kind of around that. So you could just kind of hug the curve of that knot that you created. Now you don't have to put more than one knot. You don't have to put any knots if this makes you like uncomfortable or you're concerned. I'm going to do 2 just so that I can show you the other way that I do it. Like that might be like a little more subtle. So you can just also do like a parenthesis, and then you can do like another parenthesis, like a little bit off kilter to it. So like this. And then just like I did this one, you can kind of curve your lines bigger and bigger around it until they meet, and then just continue to follow all your lines around that shape. So eventually the lines will meet and that'll create your like full kind of little cocoon vibe. This again is up to you. It's not necessary. You can just go in with your like delicate vertical lines. And I like to do a combination. So you can do a couple here and there. And remember, this is like weathered wood. It's not perfect, obviously. If you want it to be perfect. Now, just side note, if you enjoy this painting and you want to do more pumpkins, now that after I teach you this, you'll kind of know how to do a pumpkin, you can get like wood. You can get either from the craft store or you can get some like reclaimed wood, which might be a little expensive in this area. I know Haley, you're on here. If you're into the reclaimed wood, there's a ton on Facebook Marketplace because of the tornado. So a lot of people are selling reclaimed wood from properties that were damaged. I know that that's like not a good thing, but it's like this whole reuse and don't let things go to waste and help support your community kind of thing. So if you want to do that, I know like fall is very much a time for like that rustic vibe, and you can skip all of this, just paint a pumpkin on some wood, and then you don't have to do this faux wood background. That was the whole point of my story. Also, if you do happen to get wood, whether it's from the craft store or not, if you just water down some brown paint and kind of smush it on there, and you can kind of wipe it off with a like a baby wipe. I wouldn't waste any of your like cleaning wipes right now, but even like a wet sponge or a paper towel, you just water down some brown paint and kind of put it on the wood and wipe it. It works like a stain. It doesn't seal it the same way a stain might if you get that like stain and seal stuff. But yeah, just a tip there. If you like this look but don't want to sit here and paint faux wood, you can just get wood. Don't know that you needed me to tell you that, but okay. So I have a whole bunch of knots now. That's fine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash the black paint off my brush, and I'm going to grab some white. Now I streaked some white in here, so I don't really need a ton of white. But if yours is getting really kind of dark and not the vibe you're going for, you can use some white. Or like, let's say here, my line got a little chunky and I want to take some white and blend it out. You could do that. You can use this white anywhere you want. If you want to just add that extra texture. Oh, if you hear anything weird, this was kind of why I started talking about my desk actually. The desk is like handmade out of wood, and it smells. So like it smells like wood. I don't know how to describe it. It doesn't smell like good like cedar or anything. It smells like, I don't know, sawdust. So I have my window open, which I usually don't. So if you hear children playing, or every once in a while, there's this kid that lives in this neighborhood, and they are a drummer, like in the marching band, and all throughout the lockdown, they've just been like walking through the neighborhood drumming. I think it's adorable. My dog does not. Can you use acrylic paint for the wood, or is there some? Yeah, no, I use acrylic. Like I said, it doesn't like cure it or seal it or anything, but it just kind of stains it and it'll bring out the wood grain. I'm sure. I mean, there's actual products you can buy that are better for wood, and especially if you're going to put it outside, you're going to want to seal it. Like if you're going to like hang it on your door or something. But yeah, no, if I'm going to get wood, I'm going to just water down some acrylic paint as a stain. I feel like I've been rambling, so I apologize. Okay, so you get the idea with this faux wood. You can add these highlights kind of in the same fashion you added the black lines. It's really up to you how much kind of texture you want to give this background. Also keep in mind, maybe play down the texture. Maybe I'm putting too much because you want your focus to be the pumpkin. That's up to you. Okay. I think that's good. Okay. So now, if you don't already have orange paint, we're going to mix a whole bunch of yellow and some red. We're going to dive right into our pumpkin, because the pumpkin, it's not hard. I promise you it's not hard, but it takes a little bit to get that shape and the contour. So it's kind of like one of those layer games. Oh, Haley, I miss you too. I'm very sad. Well, I don't want to say what I'm sad about, because maybe things will change about the world and about us watching Supernatural together. So I'm just not going to put that negative attitude out in the universe. Okay. So I've got my yellow, got my red. There needs to be like more hand-friendly paint solutions. Like a lot of artists have like arthritis and stuff. There needs to be better solutions. Tubes are too difficult to open sometimes, and these things are really difficult because you need them to close so that they don't dry out, but then you can't get them open. Anyway, I just want to solve problems because there's a lot of them. Okay. So I'm going to get my bigger round brush. Now, if your canvas is really big and your pumpkin is therefore really big and you prefer to just use your background brush for the like initial laydown of color, you could do that as well. I was going to say maybe I'll do that too, but I don't want to get too confused. So I'm still going to work with this brush. And I'm going to make myself, just like we did for the background, I'm going to make myself like a middle orange. Like a shade of orange that you would look at and say, yep, that's a pumpkin. Now you will need to mix some white into it. So keep that in mind. You may need to add a little bit more red than you're planning on for that middle orange shade, because you do have to mix some white into this color to just for it to not be translucent. So I'm just going to throw this in here. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to, oh, I forgot to do what I said I was going to do, and that was to add some background color here. That's okay. I'll just fill my pumpkin in this space. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to add all of those like contours and shadow and all of that. And I just want to get like an initial laydown of color. This is kind of how I paint most things. You just need to get paint on the canvas before you go in with the detail, in my opinion. I just need to know that every inch of my canvas is covered and that my brain has like color blocked it. That's just how my brain works, at least. Although I do follow this artist on TikTok. I love following artists on TikTok. There's some really freaking talented human beings in this world. I follow this artist on TikTok who does it the same way. So she does pet portraits, and she just kind of like, the way I color block is like, especially if you're copying a picture, if you just squint at it, like if you hold it far away and squint at it, you should just be able to see like vague shapes and colors. And that's what she does. So I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy. Other people do this too. So I need something to watch now because I've become, I don't even want to admit this out loud. I've become obsessed now with Marvel because that's what I do. Like if I find something that I like and there's nothing to distract me, like that's gonna be it for a while. So I need something new to watch now that I finished all the movies. Oh, thanks. And I saw that. So my new love of my life is Tom Holland, obviously. And I saw he had a new movie on Netflix. It's like The Devil All the Time, I think is what it's called. Has anybody seen it? It just came out like last week or this week. So I think I'm gonna watch that sometime this week. I also still have not watched season 2 of Umbrella Academy. I just haven't been in the mood. I don't know how else to explain it. Like I really enjoy that show, and I just haven't been in the mood to watch it. I don't know why. Oh, so then I told my mom, because we were having our movie nights, me and my mom, and it was nice, and she enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it. So I was like, okay, we're done with Marvel now. So what do you want to watch next? And I gave her, at the time, I gave her 2 choices, and I said we can watch all the Harry Potter movies, or we can watch all the Star Wars movies. And she was like, but I've seen Star Wars. She hasn't seen all of them, and I saw the first one, and I didn't like it. But I would kind of like to watch the new ones, and I refuse to watch the new ones without watching the old ones first because that makes no sense. But then she watched the Emmys, and she's like, "Oh, now I want to watch Schitt's Creek because everybody loves it." And I'm like, "Okay, so now maybe we're gonna watch that." I don't know. I haven't been in the mood to watch anything, to be honest. So. Okay, so I won't watch Harry Potter, and yeah, my mom didn't want to watch Harry Potter anyway. She had kind of decided on Star Wars. Have you watched Shadowhunters? No, I have not watched Shadowhunters. Is that the one that like people got really angry at? Oh no, that was Magicians. Is that Magicians? I don't know. There's some things that people have gotten really angry at that I don't even want to waste my time on now. Harry Potter for holidays. Okay. What was the other thing that I wanted to watch? I don't remember. Okay, so now that I got everybody talking about television, now we're going to start with our pumpkin shapes. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my dirty brush and dip it in red. Now, we're going to blend this out so it's not going to be this intense. If it freaks you out, you can still just mix your red into some orange and make like a darker orange, but I'm just going to use red. So pumpkin shapes. We need that front football. It's like a rounded football to make that like bump. I also finished Criminal Minds. Yeah! Proud of you. Love Criminal Minds. Okay, so front bump. So I'm going to start with like a frowny face. And then I'm going to pull it out and down. Now, it's running off the canvas. My pumpkin is running off the canvas. So I could just kind of pull it down and I don't get that bottom bump in there. I'm going to like pull it in a little bit though, so that when I'm doing my shading, my eye knows that that's like, it doesn't just go straight down. So kind of a rounded football that goes in at the bottom, but if it's running off the canvas, don't feel like you have to fit that whole shape in there, if that makes sense, because you wouldn't necessarily see the bottom of your pumpkin in that situation. Now, if you do, like maybe the bottom of your pumpkin is like right there, that's fine. Let's see here. Okay, so now here's where mistakes happen. Well, it's not a mistake, but it doesn't give you, like, this is where people tend to struggle with making that pumpkin shape. Halloween movies and specials time. The only movie that I think is a Halloween movie, I know you're all going to come for me because of Hocus Pocus, and it's not that. I like Hocus Pocus, but I don't watch it religiously, is Practical Magic. Practical Magic is the epitome of Halloween movie for me. I love it. Okay, anyway. So, focus. So, your gut wants you to pull right off here and make that shape. But if you do that, you're going to end up with like our hot air balloon shape, which just doesn't look like a pumpkin, I would hope. So instead, you have to keep doing that arch. So you'll come up here and you'll do an arch. And then you'll pull that down. And you're going to have an arch. And you'll pull that down if you have room. The same thing here. You're going to come out. And you can decide if you want the edge of yours to be dark or light or anything like that. Now, there's a whole bunch of other bumps happening behind here, but I'm not going to sweat those because I'm going to put a stem there. So I'm not going to sweat that. And in fact, we're going to start the stem right now. So I have this orange on my brush with some red. So I'm going to just grab some more red, kind of mix it into my orange pile over here so that it's a dark orange. And then I'm going to grab a little bit of black. Mix a little bit in at a time. It's going to look very red. You can also grab some more yellow if you need. It's going to look very red on your palette, but when you put it next to the orangey reds and that gray background, it's going to look brown. Alternatively, you could just use brown if you have some. Now, thing I didn't do here because, I don't know, my brain glitched in the Matrix. My suggestion, especially when you're doing something that's kind of like, this is kind of whimsical and cartoony, I'm going to start narrower for the stem and make it bigger. And the reason for that is so that it doesn't look phallic. I'm just going to flat out say that. So what I mean is I'm going to go like this. And that's going to be the shape of my stem. And I'm going to top it with a little squished football. And you're going to lose that in a second when we fill this in. But that's okay. I just want you to know that that's the shape that's under there so that when we shade and shadow this, you remember. So we're going to do that. Now, you got yourself a little stem there. What you're going to do now is with that same brown is you're going to follow the contour that you created right there. Because the stem has those little like outgrowths. I don't know what they're called. But it doesn't just pop up like an apple stem. It has like where it kind of grows out of. You know what I'm talking about. And when we add our shadows and everything, this will change a little bit, but just want to get that in there. And now, I don't know if you can see, but you can still see some of my orange back here. So what I may end up doing, actually, now that I have my stem in place, I wash my brush off, I'm gonna grab some more red, and I'm gonna make these side bumps like more pronounced. I'm just gonna bring them up higher so that they cover up more of this stuff. So I'm gonna say, okay, my bump is gonna go there, and then maybe this one will come up a little bit too. And this one. Just to hide it, and we'll blend the rest of that in. So now we're going to blend and make pretty things. So I'm going to make some, oops, that's not where I wanted to put my color. I'm going to make some new orange. And I'm just going to see, is that lighter or darker? Okay, it's a little darker. So I'm going to pull that darker color close to where I did my lines and kind of soften them. So I made a dark orange, darker than that shade that I started with. And I'm just pulling it close to my red lines to kind of blend it out. And I'm just going to be super soft with it. I like to just do some quick little lines. Because we don't want, like, yes, there is going to be that like definitive harsh shadow, but it doesn't need to be red and that defined. So same thing here. Okay. Let's soften this up. And now with this dark orange, you can also go, if any of your pumpkin is showing behind here, you can go fill it in with the dark orange because it would kind of be in shadow. And you could add a little lump so it's not that perfect circle, you know, that you may have done before. So I'm just going to add a little bump there. And a little bump here. Just kind of paint that in. Yeah. All right, so now we're going to revisit this orange shade that we created and maybe make a lighter version, and we'll see, let's see, how much lighter is that? Well, that's significantly lighter, a little bit more yellow. And I'm just going to blend that in. So I'm just continuing to soften the lines. I want to go a little bit lighter now. Oh, that's very light. But we want this to be streaky. Or, well, I want this to be streaky because I think that's the most fun way to paint a pumpkin with all different shades. All right, so I'm out of yellow, or I made my yellow too messy. Okay, so now we want to talk about highlight and shadow. So highlights would be at the top, even though there's no light source in this painting. Generally speaking, you assume lights are going to be above. So we want to lighten up at least this part, maybe not the back part, but this part. So I'm going to go in with some white and some yellow on my brush. I have not washed my brush yet, so it's still got like that messy orange vibe on there. And I'm just going to follow the curve of my like football shape, but I'm not going to like pull it all the way down. So I'm just going to kind of like streak it in here, particularly the front one. And we're going to get some yellow and some white, and it's just going to streak in there. Now I don't want to cover up all of that darkness that we created because that is going to be like that, those dark lines, that is going to be like, it's going to signal our crease. So you don't want to cover it all up. But maybe up at the top you can kind of soften it, bring that highlight up. If anything gets too harsh on you, like if you're looking at this right now and you're like, oh my god, that pumpkin's yellow. Yes, but when everything kind of blends together, it won't look that much. Yeah, won't look that much yellow. Won't look that yellow. But if you're like, it's not doing it for me, you always can grab a little bit of red, mix it in there, and soften it. Add more streaks. I like to focus, if I'm doing that, I like to focus that kind of in the middle section of the pumpkin. So that this way I can keep some of my like brighter highlights. I'm ignoring the bottom because the bottom I'm putting shadows in. So I'm going to just keep doing that. Oops, well, I just said I'm ignoring the bottom and then I brought that all the way down to the bottom. It's okay. This is where you just kind of can get messy with some brush strokes and really bring in whatever kind of style vibe you've got. As long as you're following the shapes that you've created, it should work just fine. And it's a lot of fun. Oops, that's too red. Okay. Honestly, I find painting pumpkins like so extremely satisfying. I don't really know why. Okay, so now when I get back here, I'm gonna like start to not do such bright highlights because I want like the front to be the most highlighted. So I am gonna lighten it up a little bit, but maybe I'll focus more on adding yellow into some orange instead of so much white. It may still need a little bit of white, but and then you can kind of take a step back and look at it and be like, okay, this maybe is a little too light in comparison, so let me maybe darken this up a little bit. And by darken, I mean go more orange than yellow white, you know? Okay. Now, we're going to do the bottom. So we're going to revisit that brown shade that we used for our stem. And you can mix a little more red into it. You can mix a tiny bit more black into it if you think you need to. We're just going to do the same thing we did with the highlight, but with shadow and going up. So we're just going to kind of like swoop around the bottom here. And you don't want a ton of paint on your brush for this because it can become like really overwhelming really quickly. So I just want, and you might even need to like water your paint down. Just want to go along the curve here and kind of give myself some shadow. And I'm going to just pull that up just a little bit, kind of like I did the highlight. I pulled the highlight down. I'm going to pull this shadow up. Made that a little too dark. So if you mix a little bit that's too dark, you can go in and kind of create that crease shadow. So along the shapes that you've created, you can add that darker, and then you can water it down to do the rest. So you still do want to be able to see that crease. And sometimes it's hard. You're looking at it so close up and you're like, ooh, look at all this shadow. And then you're like, wait a second, why is it so dark here and so light here? And you've got to make some adjustments. So then you revisit your orange with your dirty brown brush and you pull the two together. Lots of blending with a pumpkin. Gotta love a pumpkin blend. And this is like one of those times where it's okay. So like if you need some orange and you have some white on your brush and you mix it together, it might become this like a little bit muddy brown, and that's okay. Usually we don't like that term muddy when it comes to painting, because it means that you've like mixed two colors together in a way that was not ideal, and it just kind of like screwed with everything. But I'm okay with it here because it just brings different tone. So don't be afraid to throw some white into your orange and make it creamier. And then you're just gonna kind of blend until you like it. You can always go in with some bright white up at the tops like I just did and just kind of, oops, that's not what I want to do. Just kind of kiss them with a highlight. Okay. I can take that. It's very different from that pumpkin, but guess what? I've never gone to a store and found two real pumpkins that were exactly the same. So don't be afraid to let your pumpkins be very different. And that's actually like a ton of fun when you're painting multiple pumpkins in one painting to like explore all the different gourd-like shapes that there can be. Okay, I like it. So now I'm going to go back to my skinnier round brush to do some details in the stem. So for the details in the stem, I'm going to grab some black. I've got a clean, dry, skinny round brush. I'm going to grab some black and I'm going to put some of like the wood grain texture in there. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to like really lightly just kind of put that semicircle back in, that little squish football. And then I'm going to go and just kind of add some streaks. You don't have to put a knot in it like we did for the background, but I'm just adding some streaks here. And I'm just going to darken up some stuff that's going on behind it. And you can then take some of your orangey brown and kind of like blend that in just so that like all of this stuff that's happening in the background is not that important. We don't need to see it. And we'll probably try to cover it with a leaf or something when we do. That. That might have been excessive. That shadow might be excessive. I don't know why I did that. Don't do that. I take everything I just said for the last like 15 seconds back. It's okay though. It's just paint. However, I do want to get like a darker brown and go back over this guy. And you can pull it like in between your lumpy bumpies a little bit because this stem situation that happens is really organic and it's not perfect, so you can like kind of pull it down over. Okay, so now we want some lighter brown. So I'm going to mix some white and some yellow into my dark brown, just to get a lighter brown. And I'm going to kind of go back in and add a little bit of highlight vibes to this. It's like a pretty subtle detail that you can't even see, but I'm just kind of going over. And you can decide like where your shadows and highlights might be on this guy. I'm going to really quick, while you're working on that, attempt to fix this back situation. You know what? Sometimes you just gotta wait for it to dry and paint over it. So that's what I'm gonna do. It's okay. Or I'll cover it with a leaf. And then you can take some white if you want to, and kind of really highlight your stem. If you don't want to be paying this much attention to your stem, you really don't have to either. Just giving you the option. I think that top circle needs to kind of be darker. Here we go. You gotta be careful with the white and the brown because it will turn a little gray. That's okay. Okay, so now it's time for some vines and some leaves. I've already got some yellow on my palette, so hopefully that's enough. I doubt it. I'm going to grab some blue now. Again, if you would rather just use green, you can just use green and then add highlights and shadows to it. But I like to make a green. So I'm going to grab a bunch of yellow, a little bit of blue. You're going to need mostly yellow. And then I'm going to add some white too, because we're going to need some white in order to cover all these shenanigans up. So we're just going to make yourself like a leafy green, but with some white in there. Okay. Now, I always prefer to not like plan this out. I think it's much more organic and kind of fun to just go to town. I will say, in this particular situation, starting at the stem and going out is probably going to be your best bet. So you can wiggle it as many times as you want, swirl it around. I'm going to end up going in and adding some highlights and stuff to this, so I'm not super concerned with the like lightness or darkness of it at the moment. And you can do as many as you want. You can have them just go outside, or you can bring one down like I did. Now I'm going to, now that I've kind of laid it out where I want them, I'm going to make a darker green. So I'm just going to take some more blue and add it into my green pile. And I'm going to pull that along. I'm going to press a little lighter because I don't want to cover up all of the green I just laid down. I just want to add some texture. You do need to keep in mind visibility though, because in person I can see this really well, but I can tell on screen that you can't. So for my highlight shade, I'm going to add a lot more yellow and a lot more white to make like a really light and bright green. And I'm going to hope that that increases the visibility. Yeah, that helps it stand out quite a bit. It may not help as much on the one that's on the pumpkin. Oh, no, actually that did a pretty good job. So I'm taking care to try not to cover up all of the different shades that I've done already because I want them to show. I want them all to show. So all of my vines have like 3 different colors of green. And then you can take your any shade of green that you have on your brush, and you could use the shape of your brush to give yourself some leaves. So I'm going to put some up here to cover up this stuff that I did in the background that I don't like. You could do little leaves, like just little boops like this. Or you can give it a few little boops. And you can do a couple different styles of leaf, whatever makes you happy. But then just be sure to give it the same treatment so you can go in with a darker and kind of give it some shadowiness with a darker green. So I'm just grabbing some more blue. I'm going to give it like a little shadow. And then I'm going to go in with my lighter, brighter, and give it a highlight. But that's really it, guys. So feel free to use your vines like I did to cover up things you don't like. So I covered up those little back bumps that I wasn't digging. You can use it to cover, like if you didn't like this line right here, because we didn't really go over like cleaning it up. You can absolutely kind of like trail a vine there. If your vine doesn't cover that and you don't like the edge of your pumpkin, you get to choose. You get to choose if you want to kind of put some of that darker red brown. So if you want to kind of clean it up with some darker shades, you can do that. Or if you prefer to do that with a highlight, if you feel like that's the direction your light is coming from, you can do that as well. So you've got a ton of options for the edge of your pumpkin. But if your vine covers it up, then you don't have to worry about it. But yeah, that's it. Pumpkin painting is very soothing. It's a lot of blending, a lot of shading. The shaping of it is very important. But after that, after you get that shape down, you can just kind of paint them all different shapes and sizes. They can be squatty ones, like wide squatty ones. I love those. Or big, tall, skinny ones, or medium, that's a word. Medium shaped round ones. You can, I'm noticing here, I did put a shadow behind it. You don't have to do that, but if you want to put a shadow behind the pumpkin, what I would do is I would take like a medium-sized brush and some water and grab just a little bit of black paint, like a real little bit. Water it down, and then you can just kind of go in with some watered down black paint and really roughly kind of darken that area a little bit right behind the pumpkin. So I'm just kind of tapering off here, a little shadow. You don't have to be overly concerned with it matching the shape of your pumpkin. And just kind of shading that in if you want to. That's like an extra, probably unnecessary step. Also does kind of make your eye indicate that the light is coming from here now. So in theory, if you're putting your shadow here, you would want to put more highlight here. It's unnecessary. As long as you're happy with your pumpkin and you're happy with your background, then you did a good job. Please post it on Twitter. It's been a while, and I would like to see all of your artwork. I don't know what we're doing next week, but I'll figure it out. And I appreciate all of you. Love you. Bye.